The EFF in the Free State is calling for the resignation of Correctional Services Minister Ronald Lamola. It's also demanding that the contract of security company G4S with the Mangaung Correctional Centre be terminated following the murderer and rapist Tabo escape in May last year. For more on this, we are now joined by EFF MP and Central Command Team member Yoliswa Yako. Yoliswa, a pleasure to have you on the program this evening. Now, the Department of Correctional Services said the escape of that Facebook rapist Tabo from the Mangaung Correctional Centre pointed to an institution that was paralyzed in terms of its security systems. Do you even accept this kind of explanation, considering the embarrassment caused by this debacle?
No, I don't think we can accept it because last year we went to the Correctional Service Centre. I was part of the delegation from Parliament that went there in April last year. And we did want to see how secure the Correctional Service Centre was. And we wanted to know how do they keep the prisoners safe, whether there was any contraband that would come in and out. We had heard before that some prisoners were being molested, some were being assaulted. We had heard of a case where one was injected without his own permission. And we flagged those, and yet we were very pacified and told that no, the Correctional Service Centre there is very private, it's very well run, it's very well maintained. So at face value, they told us what they wanted us to see.
So they told you exactly what you wanted to see, but you've raised a number of issues here with this contract awarded to G4S on issues including the long-term nature of this particular agreement. Tell us a bit more about the issues that you raise here.
No, we raised the fact that, as correctional services, it seemed like there was a trend because we had Kutama Sintumulo, which was in Limpopo, which is also privately owned, privately run, just like G4S in Mangaung is run. And we wanted to know how long has this contract been running for, and this contract is only expiring in 2026, which means that for 26 years, we're going to outsource the powers that be that maintain the Correctional Services Centre, which means that the state then does not have control over how that center is being run. And that was an issue because if we're going to start then having privately owned prisons, it's going to start a trend where it's monetized, where then we have profit for gain in terms of that space. And then it defeats the purpose of the state having then its own measuring system of how it maintains prisons, of how it controls its correctional services part of the prison system, and how it maintains its budget in terms of how each prisoner is allowed to cost per state, per prisoner for the state. So for us it was an issue because it spoke to a trend that we are seeing where we are trying to now outsource what the state is supposed to do versus what now it is trying to do, which is outsource its role.
So now, this private security company, G4S, you are making calls that they should be removed from running the prison as per Section 112 of the Correctional Services Act. Speak to us about this particular call that you are making, and are there any developments there?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about the G4S system and the G4S running that Mangaung Correctional Service Centre for a long time now, since we went there. And also what we've done as the EFF in Mangaung is to go and picket and say, you know what, I think Minister Ronald has failed in terms of how he wants to control the Department of Justice as a whole, not just the Correctional Services Centre, but in terms of justice as a whole. It's very dysfunctional. Nothing is working out. I don't think he's in control. I don't think he knows. I think he's just reacting. He's not even being proactive in terms of having an idea of how he wants to run his department. So we were saying we're calling for him to step down. We are calling for that contract to be nullified because obviously they've breached the terms and conditions of that contract as a Triple P contract. So we are saying to them that you no longer have any ability to control anything. And basically you have breached the terms of you can't say that this prisoner passed in prison when we have DNA evidence that he's not the person that died is not even the person that is the prisoner. It's not even related to any member of his family. And also, I think everyone is just passing the buck, and everyone is only reacting now because it's media. The media is in it. It's a media frenzy now, and it's out there. So we are calling for them to just do what's right, give it back to the state. Let us maintain. Let us oversee how it's going to be run. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are going on in G4S right now, and things that have hidden from us and tried to hide from us. And there's been a lot of corruption, and we've seen it. It's just that when we went there last year, they basically just wanted us to see what they wanted us to see. And now everything is coming to the fore. And everything that we've raised in terms of security, I mean, they showed us CCTV cameras of how they monitor everything. So how could it be then that we have an accelerant that comes into a cell and burns a prisoner inside dead? Let's say hypothetically that it was a prisoner that was Tabo that in there. How would an accelerant come into the prison cell from outside if that prison is so secure, if that prison is so well run? So basically they have breached everything that they said that they were going to deliver in terms of the contract that they put with Department of Justice and Correctional Services. I
want us to look at this case of Tabo Best. I mean, he escaped from a privately run maximum security prison, like you say, in May of 2022 by faking his death in a prison fire. Is this, from as far as you know, the only case of its kind, or are there similar breaches that you have noted or caught wind of over the years?
No, I mean, I think myself, I've just come into that portfolio, I think, in the last 2 years. And for me, I think this is a sign. I mean, if you can orchestrate a heist of this caliber, definitely you have done more, and definitely you have done it before. And it begs to question then is what more is there underlying in that prison? How is everything run? What more are we yet to discover? So on Tuesday, we have called as a committee the Department of Justice as well as the Minister of Police and other stakeholders to see what happened so that we can hold them accountable. And I think the main purpose is that if we have to just cancel the contract, then that's what we need to do. If we have to heads must roll, then that's what needs to happen, because obviously the safety of the prisoners inside is not quite there. Everything that's been presented to us as Parliament is not quite true, and it just leaves a lot to be desired, and it tells of how the house is not in order, and the head of the house, which is Mr. Ronald is not in control of his own home. He doesn't even know what is happening right now. I think he's just dealing with trying to pacify and trying to put fires out. But if he was in touch and in control and understanding, and the thing is, when we went there, we said, how could you have a 26-year contract with an outsourced Triple P company to run what you are supposed to be doing? We have a Correctional Service Centre which are well run, which cost much less to the state. Mangaung is actually costing us per prisoner, I think it's about 436 rand per day to maintain a prisoner in Mangaung. Whereas in a normal state prison, it costs, I think, about from about 270 rand to about 310 rand per prisoner. So think about the difference in that and what we are giving out away when we could be doing much more to assist in the correctional service part of the prison space.
Now, Bester remains on the run, and it would seem it's taking police a bit longer than expected to trace him. Any observation on your part as the EFF regarding this aspect?
Well, I mean, it's just jarring that this prisoner escaped. There was a report. No one took cognizance of it. No one followed it up. Everyone ignored it. Everyone swept it under the carpet. And now he could be anywhere. And that leaves us wanting as to how many more cases do we have of supposed rapists who have harmed women out there, whose dockets are missing, who are just let out of prison systems. I mean, we're talking now about a high-profile case, which is Tabo Bester, but how many more subtle Tabo Besters are there out there who are literally terrorizing women still to this day. If that is happening at that level, how many more are happening at other levels that we're talking about? It tells you how hollow security is in this in this country, how hollow, how vulnerable we are, in fact, as women in this country, and how susceptible we are to crime. When we have reported crimes, when there's a judicial system that has happened or judicial process that has happened, and yet you find that the perpetrator is out. How many more Tabo besters are there?
As we wrap up our conversation earlier, you made a call for accountability, and 3 Department of Correctional Services officials have been suspended for failing to play this oversight role for the security company that actually ran the prison. Your response to this, are you even satisfied by this development?
I don't think we are satisfied. You know, one of the things that we flagged when we went to Mangaung Correctional Service Centre in G4S, we highlighted the fact that, that per official, there's 60 prisoners. And we highlighted how practical that is, that one official or one guard would look after 60 prisoners, for one, which then leaves a gap to corruption, which then leaves a gap to a lot more things. And I think that the Department of Justice is basically just reacting by them firing or suspending or whatever it is that they're saying they're doing now. It's not enough really to deal with the symptom of what is at stake, which is that there's a lot of corruption in correctional services. There's a lot of criminal activities. There's a lot of hiding. There's a lot of things that they're not saying or doing. It's almost been left now to a reactive space rather than more of an offensive space where we're just saying that this is what we want from correctional services, this is what we want from our prisoners. When we have someone incarcerated, this is what the outcome should be. When we have high-profile, dangerous criminals who are murderers and rapists, such as Tabo Bester, how do we then make sure that we prioritize and we make sure that we keep them in a space where they are looked at, in a different space? And how do we then rehabilitate those that can be rehabilitated? So there's a lot going on in that space that needs to be looked at, and we've flagged all of these things, but it just seems like there's no will from government to look into it and to fix those things, and that is the issue here at hand, which is why we think that Minister is obviously not equipped to do this. He's obviously not, he doesn't seem to have a will to understand what that part of his job is. I think he's probably looking at the judiciary more than he's looking at the correctional services part of what Department of Justice is about. And that is an issue.
That was EFF Member of Parliament and Central Command Team member Yoliswa Yako, not mincing their words there, saying they want to see the back of Justice Minister Corrections and Justice Minister Ronald Lamola.